Thanks, Senator. Senator Donnghaile, you have eight minutes.
Alas Carly agus Ira to Falter Road to Luhur go on Shalogum, a couple of focal garage or Shaw, a Kivnu, Fihabli and the Queen to Inya and Kesta. Minister, I'd like to begin my comments to mark the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement by thanking and commending you for attending and speaking at the community event organised by Phil and Fubble in St Mary's University College and your attendance at Queen's University. St Mary's, Queen's and Phil and Fubble, as I'm sure you are now aware, are very important institutions in the political, cultural, educational and social life of the people of the North. Indeed, both universities are important centres of learning for the people of Ireland, North and South. I would also like to thank former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern and former Leader of Sinn Féin Gerry Adams, TD, for their participation at both events as well. I'd like too to extend my appreciation to all those who took part in the events at both universities, including former President Bill Clinton, Seanad George Mitchell and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Both events were very impressive and complemented each other in their focus and content, and the organisers deserve our appreciation for their efforts. The importance of the GFA as a living document was reflected in the breadth of the attendance at both events and the content of what was said. It was also a time, as has been acknowledged already, to say thanks to and remember the contribution of Mo Mowlam, David Irvine, Inez McCormick, Martin McGuinness, John Hume and many, many more for their invaluable contribution to the formation of and implementation of the Good Friday Agreement. I think, Tánaiste, your speech was thoughtful, set in an all-Ireland context and addressed the totality of the relationships within this island and between this island and Britain, just as the Good Friday Agreement did 20 years ago and still does to this day. Your speech revolved around three themes, and you touched on some of them today: remember, renew and reconcile. In addressing the politics of the here and now in this way, I believe you set a fresh framework for today's political leaders in their endeavours to re-establish the All-Ireland institutions on the only credible and sustainable basis: equality and respect. It is important to remind ourselves that much progress has been made in the last 20 years in moving our society out of centuries of conflict, but much more needs to be done. The agreement provides a solid foundation on which to build a democratic and progressive society in the North as part of an island-wide arrangement, as we journey peacefully towards a new, united and independent Ireland. The Irish Government is central to the development and achievement of a democratic society in the North. It is particularly important at this point in time because of the behaviour and attitude of the British Government and the DUP. They are supporting each other in blocking essential and democratic reform in the North, and of course, the added dynamic of Brexit into this already toxic environment has made a bad situation much, much worse. In my view, despite what the British Government and the DUP say in public, they don't want the institutions of the North restored on the basis of equality and respect for all. For now, anyway. And for these reasons, it's important that the Irish Government steps into this political vacuum with proposals based on the Good Friday Agreement itself to steer the North forward. The people of the North, not least those who don't vote for the DUP or support the Tories or Brexit, should not be denied their democratic rights or denied access to their political leaders and political institutions. The Irish and British governments should convene the British-Irish Intergovernmental Conference. The political impasse must be filled with political initiatives to ensure the progress made over the last 20 years isn't frittered away because of political inertia. The North isn't a foreign affair, it's a home affair. It's a national priority and must remain so because of the failure of partition and because of the inherent unstable and undemocratic nature of politics there. The Irish Government's presence in the North and its leadership role is crucial in moving politics progressively forward. The Good Friday Agreement provided momentum for change on many fronts and continues to do so, and that is the welcome reality 20 years after it was agreed. To add to that, and reflecting on some of the remarks made already, Minister, I'm acutely aware and privileged, indeed, I'm a privileged beneficiary of the change that the Good Friday Agreement brought about for us. I'm conscious too, as many members have reflected and you did too, on the loss, the hurt, the sacrifice, the pain that still prevails. But I'm also thankful for the courage to take the leaderly steps that were required at that time and continue to prevail, thanks be to God. I'm conscious too of a generation, my own generation, who was young at the time of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, who looked on with great expectation, who continue to look on with great expectation and hope, but unfortunately are equally disappointed. They're aghast, they're frustrated, they're annoyed, they're angry, they're fed up at what is a failure for that agreement to be fully realised. And that even now, as colleagues have said, when you think and reflect on some of the big, huge, momentous initiatives that have been overcome, policing reform, decommissioning, all of those issues, and what is being held up, or what is holding up the full promise of the Good Friday Agreement, is a denial of people's rights, a denial of their place here, a denial of their national identity, their culture, their language, their citizenship. But I don't believe that's insurmountable. I believe if the celebrations of recent times have done anything, it was to act as a reminder and a catalyst that we can, if the political will is there, if the governments are invested, then we can overcome those issues. So we look upon the Good Friday Agreement, and we look upon the governments and indeed the political parties. We have all a responsibility with a great deal of expectation. We want delivery, and we want to see the promise of the Good Friday Agreement realised to its fullest. And I think an important point to make, Minister, is when we all collectively talk about reconciliation, reconciliation isn't a process between two political parties or two blocs in the north. The reconciliation envisaged in the Good Friday Agreement was promised to all of us across this island. And the legacy of conflict isn't a recent phenomenon. It permeates into every aspect and fabric of life right across this entire island. So we need to look inward in terms of reconciliation. We need to reflect on the sentiments of what we are saying, and indeed the word and letter of the Good Friday Agreement, that we too in this state have an obligation to engage in the reconciliation process fully. And that isn't just, as important as it is, simply attending a meeting or simply attending a dinner or looking on in support and a cheerleading role, but to actually be invested and to be involved practically, tangibly, on the ground in this process. And it also means people in this chamber reconciling with me as a Republican from Belfast, and I too with them. It means accepting the democratic will of the people of the North. So I urge you, Minister, to continue to stand firm in defence of the Good Friday Agreement, not least given the potential threat and jeopardisation of Brexit. Again, I thank you for being present for the celebrations that last week. That isn't lost on people. That's an important part of